In the glittering world of mid-20th century Hollywood, two women from vastly different worlds captured the imagination of millions. Marilyn Monroe, the platinum blonde sex symbol who would become an enduring cultural icon, and Dorothy Dandridge, a stunning and talented Black American actress who broke racial barriers but whose legacy remained comparatively overshadowed. While Marilyn's image remains synonymous with glamour, beauty, and tragedy, Dandridge's brilliance has often been relegated to the sidelines of mainstream history, which is ironic because their lives parallel so much. These two ladies' lives parallel so much so that at one point Dorothy was known as the Black Marilyn Monroe. But even with their similar lives, one shines ever so brightly while the other remains hidden in the shadows and nearly forgotten, especially by those in her own community. This documentary seeks to explore the lives of these two women, the racial and cultural forces that shaped their careers, and how internalized racial esteem within the Black community contributes to the disparity in how they're being remembered. Let us find out why you revere Marilyn Monroe more than Dorothy Dandridge. Norma Jean Mortensen was born in 1926 in Los Angeles, California, into a world of instability and hardship. Her mother, Gladys Baker, struggled with mental health issues and was eventually institutionalized, leaving Norma Jean to be placed in foster care and later in an orphanage. Over the years, she endured actual abuse at the hands of various caretakers, a horrible experience that would haunt her throughout her life. After years of being shuffled between foster homes, orphanages, and harm, she craved attention and approval, a need that would later fuel her iconic persona as Marilyn Monroe. Norma Jean's escape from a cycle of poverty and abuse came through modeling, which quickly opened the doors to Hollywood. Through a series of modeling contracts, Monroe's beauty captivated Hollywood, and soon she was propelled into stardom. She embodied an archetype of femininity that blended childlike innocence with overt sexuality. Her rise to fame was meteoric, driven by iconic roles in films like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and Some Like It Hot. These films cemented her status, while her beauty and charisma made her a symbol of post-war American optimism. But behind the glamorous facade, Monroe wrestled with severe depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. She felt trapped in the persona Hollywood created for her and longed to be taken seriously as an actress. Monroe's story was one of contradiction. Despite her success, she grappled with deep insecurities, feelings of inadequacy, and struggles with mental health. She was seen as both innocent and provocative, childlike yet sexually confident, a paradox that fascinated the American public. Despite her personal struggles, Monroe achieved a level of fame and cultural influence that few could rival. Hollywood carefully curated and promoted her image, ensuring her mass appeal, until her tragic death in 1962 at the age of 36, which elevated her from celebrity to legend. Hollywood had enshrined her as an immortal icon of beauty, vulnerability, and ambition. While Monroe was breaking into Hollywood, Dorothy Dandridge was also carving a path through the treacherous terrain of the entertainment industry, but her journey was far more fraught with systemic barriers. Born in 1922 in Cleveland, Ohio, Dorothy was similarly defined by trauma and instability. From an early age, Dorothy's life, as well as her sister's, Vivian, was marked by negligence, abuse, and pain. Her mother, Ruby Dandridge, was a talented performer and low-budget actress, as well as a determined woman who sought to make a life for herself and her daughters. Ruby also lived what was considered a salacious lifestyle back then, one that would be considered bringing shame upon their family. When she formed a romantic relationship with Geneva Williams, a woman who became a significant presence in Dorothy's life, and not always in a positive way. Ruby and Geneva's lesbian relationship, considered taboo and morally wrong at the time, was the subject of gossip and judgment. Living in a society hostile to queer relationships added strain to their household dynamics. However, The real darkness was Geneva's abuse of Dorothy and her sister Vivian. Geneva exerted a controlling and often abusive influence over Dorothy's upbringing. Tragically, she subjected Dorothy to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, a trauma that left deep scars on Dorothy's psyche. To escape the tortures she endured at home, Dorothy was introduced to the world of performing at a young age, singing and dancing with her sister in a touring act called the Wonder Children, touring black venues across the country. While these performances showcased Dorothy's talent, they also exposed her to the harsh realities of racial segregation and exploitation in the entertainment industry. Dandridge made a name for herself performing in nightclubs and cabarets, earning roles in a handful of films, often confined to small parts that capitalized on her beauty while ignoring her talent. Hollywood was not ready to elevate black women to lead roles, often relegating them to maids, slaves, or other stereotypical characters. But that would soon change for her in 1954, when her breakthrough came when she starred in Carmen Jones, an all-black musical directed by Otto Preminger. Dandridge's portrayal of the seductive Carmen was electrifying, earning her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, the first for a black American woman in that category. But even as she shattered one major glass ceiling, others remained firmly in place. Unlike her white counterparts, including Marilyn, Dorothy was unable to capitalize on her success. Hollywood offered her very few leading roles, and the ones that did come her way were often problematic, either sexualizing her character or limiting her to stereotypical portrayals of black women. She found herself boxed in by the very industry she had hoped would embrace her. While Marilyn's image was mass-produced and celebrated, Dorothy's remained pigeonholed, unable to transcend the racial limitations of the time. The stark contrast between the careers of Monroe and Dandridge highlights the role that race played in the production of fame and visibility. Monroe's beauty was emblematic of 1950s white femininity, platinum blonde, voluptuous, and approachable yet untouchable. Her success lay in the fact that her image was not just celebrated but actively marketed by the Hollywood machine. She embodied a beauty ideal that was seen as universally desirable, and studios, advertisers, and the media were eager to promote her. Dandridge, on the other hand, challenged the cemented white beauty standards of Hollywood. Though she was equally beautiful and talented, her racial identity meant that she could never fully escape the barriers imposed by segregation, discrimination, and typecasting. Hollywood had no template for a black female star of Dandridge's caliber, and its reluctance to create space for her stifled her career. Now, how does the black community play a part in this? Well, unfortunately, our community tends to not see value in or rarely supports their own, and the white Hollywood structure helps us to devalue ourselves as well as our own image, no matter how extravagant it is. This, in turn, reveals the collective, low racial esteem that black people tend to suffer from. But as we know, there's a reason for this. While Dandridge's beauty and success collided with the cultural pressures of low racial esteem within the black community, Hollywood and society at large had indoctrinated many with the belief that Eurocentric features were the gold standard. Even within the black community, figures like Monroe were often upheld as aspirational, a reflection of the pervasive impact of white supremacy on beauty ideals. White people were, and even to this day, are seen as the epitome of success and mainstream achievement in almost all areas of life, in looks, money, lifestyle, etc. For many, white privilege is the highest you can go in the American dream. Nothing seems to be able to top it in many people's eyes. So when you have a black beauty such as Dorothy Dandridge, no matter how talented and beautiful she is, her star potential doesn't shine as brightly, because she is a part of the most marginalized group ever. Everyone knows that black people have to work 10 times harder to achieve even a tenth of what white people can, who do less and get more. So when a collective group who have been systemically torn down for centuries with no collective therapy to heal, no much positive representation, and still enveloped in a world that literally keeps feet on their necks, it usually takes a collective toll on that group and how they see themselves. That's why you'll often hear different Black celebrities say things like, "I'm only Black famous," or "I want that mainstream fame, white fame."
The reason I didn't do Friday, because in a way at that time, this is the honest truth, man, in my mind, I was sick of just doing Black movies.
Black people suffer from collective low racial esteem so many don't see as great a value in Dorothy as they do Marilyn. To reiterate, Dorothy, by contrast, represented a beauty and talent that did not fit the white mold. As a result, some within the Black community internalized these Eurocentric ideals, leading to an undervaluation of Dandridge's achievements. Though she was groundbreaking, her image did not resonate as strongly in a society that had long taught Black people to admire and emulate whiteness. Low racial esteem, the internalized sense of inferiority that can occur in marginalized communities, has played a significant role in the underappreciation of Dorothy Dandridge, especially when compared to figures like Marilyn Monroe. For generations, mainstream American culture glorified white beauty, and the media perpetuated these ideals. In turn, this shaped the perceptions of what was considered desirable, worthy, and iconic, both within white society and among Black communities. Many Black individuals, conditioned by these societal standards, often admired Monroe's beauty, charisma, and celebrity status, even subconsciously aspiring to the whiteness she embodied. Monroe represented a level of fame and desirability that was universally recognized because she fit the idealized image of femininity, sexuality, and success.
Sometimes I feel like Marilyn Monroe.
Dandridge, by contrast, while celebrated within certain segments of the Black community, did not achieve the same level of universal admiration. Her struggles, not just against a racist Hollywood system, but against the deeply ingrained biases within her own community, highlight the destructive nature of low racial esteem. In many cases, Black audiences were taught to believe that Black stars, no matter how talented, could never attain the same level of cultural importance as white figures like Monroe. This internalized belief diminished the appreciation of Dandridge's monumental achievements and contributions to entertainment history. The issue of low racial esteem also affected the ways in which Dandridge was remembered. While Monroe's image is continuously reinforced through mainstream media, Dandridge's legacy was not given the same attention or care. Black pioneers in Hollywood, especially women like Dandridge, were often pushed to the sides of history, leaving subsequent generations with a lack of prominent Black figures to celebrate or identify with. This cycle of invisibility and undervaluation contributed to Dandridge's relatively diminished legacy. In the decades following their deaths, Monroe's image became immortalized in a way that Dandridge's did not. Monroe's likeness was emblazoned on posters, books, and films. Her life story became the subject of endless fascination and mythologizing. Hollywood's cultural machinery continued to elevate her into the realm of legends, despite her own tragic demise. She became an enduring symbol of beauty, vulnerability, and ultimately tragedy, a fixation that permeated popular culture for generations. Dandridge, by contrast, faded from public memory for many years. The systemic erasure of Black achievement played a significant role in this. Black pioneers in entertainment were rarely granted the same posthumous reverence as their white counterparts. For many years, Dandridge's name was known primarily within Black communities or among niche film historians, but she did not reach the same level of universal acclaim. It wasn't until the 1990s that Dandridge's legacy was revisited in mainstream culture. In 1999, the HBO film introducing Dorothy Dandridge, starring Halle Berry, helped reintroduce Dandridge's story to a new generation. The film highlighted the immense challenges she faced as a Black actress in a segregated industry and the personal tragedies that marked her life. Yet, the process of reclaiming Dandridge's legacy remains ongoing. After all, we don't see Dorothy's image on dollar store t-shirts, posters, or notebooks the same way we see Marilyn, and we don't see any of our Black girls or women sporting her either. Janelle Monáe is the only artist that I've seen make a song in tribute to Ms. Dandridge. Hopefully, one day, there will be more. As cultural attitudes shift, so too does the way we remember figures like Dorothy Dandridge. The rise of movements celebrating Black pride, representation, and the reclamation of history has played a pivotal role in restoring Dandridge's place in Hollywood lore. Conversations about racial esteem, representation, and the impact of white supremacy on cultural memory have led to a renewed appreciation of Black pioneers like Dandridge. Hopefully one day we can raise our collective racial esteem and celebrate ourselves the same way we do others. While Marilyn Monroe will likely always remain an indelible part of American pop culture, hopefully conversations like this will allow Dorothy Dandridge's legacy to finally receive the recognition it deserves. Both women were trailblazers in their own right. Monroe for breaking barriers around sexual norms and femininity, and Dandridge for challenging racial stereotypes in an industry that often sought to erase her. In examining their parallel lives, we gain insight into the broader racial and cultural forces that continue to shape our understanding of beauty, talent, and racial pride.